Well, welcome everyone to our final AP Academy professional development session of the academic year. It is hard to believe that I am saying those words, that we have actually reached the end of a rather remarkable academic year. So we are all, we're so grateful to have you here this afternoon, and we are even more grateful to have President Michael Licari with us. Like we said, we've really only interacted through these little boxes on our computer screens. So I'm excited when we can finally meet in person. But we will hand it over to President Licari, and I believe that in just a little bit, we'll open it up for some Q&A as well. So President Licari, I will let you take it away.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thanks, Allie. And thanks everybody for inviting me and for your work, and congratulations on almost getting through another academic year. And this one was especially challenging and trying. And so I guess an extra dose of thank you along with your extra dose of vaccine, I hope. You know, because it was just weird, right? I think unprecedented. I've heard that word now more than in the last 12 months than I've heard in my entire life. So I'll try to stop using that. And it's just, I think just weird is overwhelming, exhausting, whatever you want to call it. It's been a lot. As Allie mentioned, I'm Mike Licari, you know, and thrilled, honored, and humbled to be the president of Austin Peay. It's a wonderful institution and a wonderful community, and so and we do important work, and so it's truly an honor to be in this position. So I'm very grateful. You know, throughout my career, I started in kind of mid to late 90s as a faculty member in the political science department at the State University of New York in Binghamton, so upstate New York, kind of near Ithaca in the south central part of the state. A very beautiful, neat way to start my career. Moved to the University of Northern Iowa after 4 years out there, not because I didn't like it, but because that's where we had our son Daniel. And my wife Kirsten and I are both from Minnesota, and our families are all still in Minnesota. We're the only ones who are, you know, kind of on the move. And when we were way out in upstate New York with this new little guy, we realized that we needed to get closer to home base. And so we moved back to the Midwest. And I started in the political science department at Northern Iowa in 2001. And we were there for 14 years. So, you know, I like to say Daniel grew up in Cedar Falls, Iowa, and my career grew in Cedar Falls, Iowa there too. You know, I came in as a fifth-year assistant professor and left after serving a year as the interim provost. So, you know, that was a great institution for me. It was a great place for our family. You know, but after 14 years, and it was time to go. And so left for the provostship at Indiana State in 2015. And was there, had a very, very successful, not quite 6 years at ISU. That was a school that was attractive to me for a number of reasons, not least of which was the student body that it serves, which not coincidentally, which is what drew me here too, tremendous numbers of first-generation college goers. More than half of the students are, you know, low-income, Pell eligible, pretty diverse student body as well. And that's what we are here. And so I like institutions. I like public institutions. Public institutions should be doing public things, and we do that very, very well. We move the needle for these students. You know, we transform their lives while they're here. And that's what's super exciting about higher ed in general, but especially universities like Austin Peay. So that's really what drew me here when I saw the job posting and was being recruited by the search firm. It was sort of how could I not throw my hat in the ring here, and so. It's been a long way, kind of a long path, certainly nothing preordained. And I didn't go into my career back in the 90s thinking that, I would be at some point a university president, but just found more meaningful work and interesting work along the way, each step. So it's been a tremendously rewarding 25 years or so. So Kirsten, my wife, is thrilled to be here as well. We were joking today at lunch that she's having the most fun being and lining herself up to be, because things are still COVID-y right now, right? But as we get back to normal, she's just absolutely thrilled to be essentially the chief volunteer for Austin P, campus mom, and all of those kinds of things. So she's just ready to jump right in. She's got all sorts of plans for students as they come back in the fall. So you'll see her around quite a bit. And she's a wonderful partner, very, very supportive. I certainly would not be standing here on this Zoom call as the president if it wasn't for her efforts as well. So, in terms of just sort of a kind of a recap of events that are ongoing right now. Obviously, I do need to say again, and I know I said at the start, thank you for your work in this weird time. There have been a lot of different challenges that we've all faced. Some of them have been unique to you specifically. So I appreciate your time and dedication to our students here, and that's really what matters. And that's what we need to keep focused on. As we started vaccinating people in partnership with Montgomery County Health Department to support vaccinations in the community. We started that back on the 2nd. By April 8th, we had already passed, 2,000 COVID-19 shots. So, we're running through people really, really quickly. I got my first and second shots over there across the street. Got my second one last week, Wednesday, and it took a little while for me to feel a little bit better. So I had to kind of power my way through a couple of days of work at the end of the week last week, feeling pretty lousy, but small price to pay in order to be protected now from the virus. And I could not imagine feeling like that, like I did for 36 hours. I couldn't imagine feeling like that for weeks or a month or longer. So if you haven't, please go get your vaccines. And I'm very, very excited. We were very, very excited. We were talking a little bit about this before everybody else joined about the frustrations of meeting people with masks on, but then also just not meeting very many people, period, around campus. Very, very excited to get people, back to as much as normal as possible in the fall. So, with regular classes and in-person activities and all of those kinds of things, it's just critical for campus life. It's good for us, frankly, and it's certainly vital for our students. That's what they need right now. In order to be successful. Everybody on this call knows how much students get outside of the classroom as much as they do inside. Those social interactions, especially the traditional age college students, they go to college to grow up as much as they do to do anything else. So, and growing up means, interacting with people repeatedly in a face-to-face environment. So, very excited about the prospects of getting back to normal. Very, very happy that we'll be able to hold in-person commencements in a couple of weeks. What that means, though, in this environment is that we are going to hold a lot of them. 7, actually. A couple of them are sort of makeups to gather up some of those students who missed out on opportunities last year, and the rest, of course, are to celebrate the current graduating students. But obviously commencements those are really fun. They're some of the best activities ever, right, that a campus does, because they are the capping of a lot of work on behalf of the students, a lot of effort, and essentially recognize all of those goals being accomplished. So they're so fun, and it's so awesome to always hear the families just cheering and clapping as their students' names are read, and it's just really, really important. So I'm so happy that we're able to do that. We have our first doctoral student in our EDD program, actually first doctoral student ever from Austin P, who will earn her EDD as of May 7th. So that is a big first for the university. Obviously, she's very proud of her accomplishments. We're very proud of her. It's a very exciting day for the university too. The environment, of course, the reason why we need to have so many ceremonies is that we're, spreading students out on the floor, and we're limiting the number of guests per student to 4. So if you can and want to volunteer to work, staff the ceremonies, reach out to McCartney Johnson in my office. She can plug you in. With so many ceremonies, that means we need a lot of volunteers. So any help is greatly appreciated there. Today's the launch. I guess we launched it about 4 hours ago. Our Govs Give Day of Giving, little day plus, right? It's 1 day, 9 hours and 27 minutes, 1927, the year of our founding, get it? That'll run until tomorrow evening, right? At not quite 7:30. For those of you who've given and donated to the university, really, really thank you so much for your support of our students and the institution. So, those gifts are greatly appreciated. Sometimes they make all the difference as to whether or not a student can continue and register for that next semester's worth of classes, or perhaps have to step away because they're short of money. And perhaps to never return to campus. So, sometimes those amounts may not seem like very much to some of us, but when you don't have any money at all, a $1,500 bill or $2,000 might as well be $2 million, because that might be the barrier that some student is facing. So I appreciate it, and any amount is greatly can really, really help. Faculty have been pedaling really, really hard, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the support of Provost Cronley and Lynn in curriculum development. There's been a lot of good work that's been done lately. We're on track to offer the Master of Speech Language Pathology in the fall. We'll also be implementing the Master of Science in Criminal Justice with concentration in Homeland Security. That's going to really be the only master's program in the state of Tennessee with a concentration in Homeland Security. So that's a huge distinguishing feature for us, right? Every university needs something different, something that everybody else isn't doing, so that students who are looking for something unique can find us and really set themselves apart. We'll also be offering, this is really cool too, a Bachelor of Music with a concentration in music therapy. Again, a distinguishing feature of campus, because there's only one other institution in the state that has that. And so that's very, very exciting. So I'm very appreciative. You know, one of my jobs is to go out and about and sell and talk about the university. When I've got a pocket full of distinguishing features that set us apart from everybody else, because at the end of the day, a lot of, you know, all universities have a core set of functions, right, that we all do. So it's what else is there about Austin Peay that makes us different, that makes us better, that makes us something that is going to stick in somebody's mind in a very positive way. So these are great examples. I'm very appreciative of the work that the faculty are doing in program development. It's very exciting. It's a lot of work, and so that doesn't always happen, but it's happening here. So that's really cool. The health professions building is still on track. It's in the governor's budget. So I think we're just kind of waiting for just kind of, you know, a few more formal box checking things and things like that. And of course, that's going to gather together, you know, the School of Nursing, Allied Health Sciences, the counseling and psychological science programs, social work, health and human performance. So basically gather all of those allied health and health related fields, so that students and faculty can collaborate in ways that, you know, sort of replicate the real world, if you will. I don't like that dichotomy, right? It's false. It presumes then that the university isn't real, that nothing that we do here is the real world. I don't like that, but I fall into it sometimes. So that's going to be really cool. A very, very exciting facility, because it'll have then, you know, an opportunity for us to put in state-of-the-art labs and equipment and classroom facilities and things like that. So that's super, super cool. So very, very grateful to the state. I always need, and I'm down in Nashville a lot, walking the halls of the Cordell Hall building to basically make sure that our state representatives and state senators and the governor all know who I am and know why I'm there and know why that Austin Peay is a good investment of state tax dollars. At the end of the day, the state of Tennessee is our biggest single donor. So we need to make sure that we keep that in mind. Unfortunately, the Institute for National Security Military Studies that I was pushing earlier this spring and then was pushed last year as well, did not make it into the governor's budget. We've got some friends though, in both the House and the Senate that are offering amendments to the appropriations bill to work in funding for that. So we will see. You know, we serve a lot of military affiliated students. It's something like close to a quarter of our students are connected to the military. So, you know, obviously we have a prominent position and prominent connection to the military. So a center, an institute like this makes a lot of sense. The state of Tennessee nationally is a leader in national security. And so I think it's a sensible investment on the part of the state, but so far the governor hasn't been willing to work it into his plans. Moving forward, you know, in the last 6 weeks, I've been mostly in learning mode, right? You know, trying to use my ears more than my mouth, and just kind of trying to absorb as much about the university as I possibly can, and then thinking about what to do with all of that information, and throughout sort of my background reading. I was doing a lot of kind of digging into the institution in the months before I arrived, and then in conversations with Maria and with the faculty senate leaders and staff senate leaders, my own leadership team, it's pretty clear that it's time to either develop new, because we don't have any in the first place, some plans, or to redo some of the existing plans that the university has. And so I know that Maria has been working to try to start lay some of the groundwork for an academic master plan that's to basically kind of figure out who we are right now, who we want to be, if that's something different within the next 4 to 5 years, and what will it take to get there in terms of academic offerings, expectations of faculty, the way in which we want to talk about the institution, right? That matters, right? The narrative that we build up around the institution, that we use for PR purposes, that we use for my own speeches out on the, around, that makes a difference, right? Because that becomes the public identity of campus. And so we shape that. That's us. So it's always a good time. It's always a good idea to take the time to every once in a while just sit back down and say, all right, is what we're saying what we want this to be, or have we gotten here just kind of through sheer inertia and then didn't even realize that, oh, here we are now, how did we get here, kind of thing. So kudos to Maria for launching that. We don't really have an academic master plan right now, so this would be something new. Similarly, we don't have a real strategic enrollment master plan, and we need one. Because they help us. They help us in a number of ways. First of all, at the very least, they ensure that enrollment and student success, student outcomes, are not pitted against each other, right? Oftentimes they can be. Loretta is clapping. Because sometimes you'll get, folks in this silo over here trying to enroll students at pretty much any, if you can fill out a form, welcome to the university, and then they just throw them into the other bin of the folks that are responsible now for trying to get all of those students across the graduation stage. Well, if both of those decisions and both of those operations are working in isolation, right? You're going to get decisions over here on the enrollment side that hurt your ability over here on the student success side of things. It's best if you have a holistic approach to things, to say, all right, who are we going to recruit? How are we going? Who are we going to recruit and how? Who are we going to admit and how? And then how are we going to support and educate those students that we do admit, right? So the goal is to then be more, I don't know what you want to call it, strategic, precise about all of this, so that collectively we have an understanding of what we're trying to accomplish, right? Who we should be out recruiting and why. And what that means then for the structures that we have in place academically, right? In terms of advising and financial aid and scholarshiping and, excuse me, classroom expectations, all of those kinds of things. And then that leads to then having a more realistic understanding of what our plans are for moving the needle in student success, right? So, what should our retention rate be? What should our 4- and 6-year graduation rates be? Well, you can kind of work backwards, right? From, all right, okay, so if we're here and we're admitting these kinds of students, well, that would suggest that we could go up, 5 percentage points over the next couple of years or something like that. The other thing that a strategic enrollment plan will allow us to do is really extend extend our thinking about the length of the process, right? So many folks right now think of it as in a maybe a 5-year process, right? Let's think about recruiting high school seniors and then get them to graduation, in 4 years. And that's incredibly narrow, right? That is just one little piece of the more real approach that we need to think about, right? You need to extend the front end of things. We should be talking to kids while they're in junior high, right? 7th, 8th, 9th grade. And forgive me, I don't know if it's middle school or high school or, I don't know what the middle, junior high, I don't know what the terminology is here. But start talking to them in their 8th and 9th grades, so that when they get to the point in their junior year when they're planning campus visits, right? That's the thing. Waiting until you're talking to seniors is like you've at least missed a year, right? But if you've been talking to them for 3 or 4 years, by the time they're ready to schedule their sets of campus visits in their junior year, spring break of their junior year, summer in between junior and senior year, Austin P is top of mind. Oh, I've gotten tons of mail from them. I've been on their campus. I've been, invited to participate in this, that, and the other thing at Austin P. And so, yeah, I want to make sure I go check them out. And then when they become seniors and they're filling out their applications for college, it's like a no-brainer that they're gonna send an application here. So that's the front end. Then on the back end, once we get them across the graduation stage, that's not it, right? We have an entire unit on campus called, Advancement in Alumni Relations, right? So we don't wave goodbye, never to see you again as you cross the graduation stage. We want to continue to keep engaged with you and you engaged with us, so that as you mature and develop as a professional, as you become a community leader, we stay in touch with you. We get you back to campus to mentor new students coming in, give a guest lecture in a class, maybe go to graduate school here, and eventually, when you've got it, donate some money. So, it's a much longer process than we usually think of. And so the plan is very intentional about that when we're talking about a life cycle of a student. I'm talking about 8th grade through, becoming a professional. And that goes to a lot of marketing as well. We started meeting, Maria was in this meeting. I've started to get the ball rolling on overhauling our marketing and brand approach. I need our marketing to be 3 things: inspiring, informative about what's going on inside the university, and then results oriented as well. So, right, students want to be inspired, but in order to be inspired, they need to learn a little bit about the university. And you can't do that in some kind of superficial tagline kind of thing. And then parents want to know about results. Will my student graduate? And when she does, will she get a job or be, ready for the world? So we need to kind of, we need to do a lot here. And so I know Bill Persinger has gotten the ball rolling, regarding some focus groups, and we'll do some data gathering about us and about the perceptions of the university out in the community and things like that to kind of lay some of the groundwork. And then finally, the university strategic plan that was developed essentially in 2014, 15 to be rolled out in 15. So it's already 6 years old, 7 years old, and a lot has changed in that time period. And so as I flip through it, I see some of the targets and goals are just, you know, they may not have been realistic in the first place, quite frankly. And now we're just, you know, or just, you know, they just don't connect to the current situation quite well enough. So there's that kind of refreshing of things. One feature of the plan that I don't really like is that it does have two distinct goals, one for enrollment, one for student success. So it sort of reinforces that siloed approach to things. And I think we need to tear that down and replace it with, you know, a strategic enrollment plan. And then kind of surprisingly, the university strategic plan is silent on, there's nothing really in there about our connection to military affiliated students, right? Despite the fact that a quarter of our students have that link, we don't really have a strategic priority in our plan for it. So I think that probably needs to be addressed as well. So there's a lot of work here, but we'll take it in a logical step. You know, I'm not going to rush through this because there's no point in that. So first we will plan to plan, then we will plan, and then we will implement the plan. And quite frankly, I think for the most part, getting all of this done is we'll be wrapping all of this stuff up, you know, at this point next year, right? So this is a 14-month project, basically. You know, so there's that's a lot, but it's really exciting. I think it's exciting. You know, these kinds of opportunities to put such a big imprint on an institution all at once, they don't come around very often. And so, you know, the folks working here and teaching here at Austin Peay right now have a pretty impressive opportunity to leave their mark on the institution, one that's going to last for a really long time. And so, you know, that's exciting. It's a little daunting because we got to get it right. But if the stakes aren't high, then why do it, right? It's not worth it, right? So this is really important work. I know we're up for it, you know, because everybody here is great. I've just been thoroughly impressed with faculty, staff, and administrators here on campus. So I would not be proposing doing any of this if I was concerned about our capacity to get it done. So it's great. So I'm happy to take questions if you've got any.
Sure, and feel free to unmute and ask a question that way, or you can put it in the chat. Rachel and I will be helping with monitoring the chat. You can even send it to me in a direct message if you'd like to ask anything anonymously as well.
I spoke for 35 minutes. You have to have a question or two. There's no chance that something I said didn't go, I don't know about that, or tell me more. Everybody's like, seriously, dude, it's like an hour and a half after lunch. I'm tired. It's like the last week and a half of this semester. You want me to engage my brain right now? I'm lucky to get to dinner.
Well, I'll jump in just because I was feverishly taking notes as you were talking. I loved what you said about kind of bringing together the enrollment and student success areas to work more collaboratively together. So could you talk maybe a little bit more about that, about the plans for that, and hopefully how that can impact our enrollment and maybe a timeline for that?
Yeah, so you know, the strategic enrollment plan, it's going to have to be based on a really solid understanding of the the current lay of the land, the current data that we know about our students that we're welcoming and trying to educate right now, right? So that's a really good starting point, is to start to disaggregate the student body into all sorts of different buckets, right? So what happens to a student coming into Austin Peay with this particular background, a white male student with a 2.8 coming from, such and such high school with a expected family contribution of X, right? So that you can start to build, a model that allows us to kind of figure out what the sensitivity to certain kinds of things are, because what that does is that it tells us then, okay, then these students need this when they're admitted, and they're gonna run into these challenges, and so we're gonna need to make sure that our offices of this, that, and the other thing are ready for this. And then there might be some instances where we just decide, a certain threshold just maybe needs to be higher. We need to do something alternatively with our students. So I'll give you one example from my previous institution. When I was looking through the data, I realized that, and this was before I had enrollment management underneath my area, and so this kind of siloed approach is something that I've personally worked in for a little while, and was very frustrated with it. We were admitting, up to, depending on the year, 11 to 13% of our incoming freshman class was conditionally admitted, which was, a nice way of saying that they weren't really ready for college. And so I started to, really dig into those students to see what happened to them. And, this was 11 to 13% of freshman classes that were usually around 2,400 to 2,600 students. So we're talking a lot of kids, right? Hundreds of them. And their first year retention rates were, maybe 40%, and their 4-year graduation rates were in the single digits. 8% of them would graduate after 4 years, right? So you bring in 300 students, and only 8% of them managed to ever find the finish line. So I was like, I think we're just stealing their money, right? Because we knew as an institution, or we should have known as an institution, that there was really almost no chance that these students were going to make it. But we were happy to take their tuition dollars, for a little while anyway. So, when the new president there restructured things, and I got enrollment management, we stopped. We went from 300 conditionally admitted students that were just sort of, here you come on in, to it was maybe about 70 of them. And then of those 70, they only were able to be conditionally admitted if they really jumped through a lot of hoops to demonstrate, real commitment to being successful. And instead, what we did was create it was called Pathway to Blue. There was a partnership with the local community college to say, all right, so instead of conditionally admitted students coming directly to Indiana State, where we just knew they were going to make it, we just said, no, here you go. Here's the pathway to Indiana State. You're going to live in our dorms. You're going to do all of these things as if you were an Indiana State student, but you're going to be a community college student for 2 years first. So things like that, when you take a bit more of a strategic approach to things, that is, really think about the whole process from recruitment to finish, rather than just myopically focused on let's just get more students in the door, then you can do things like that, right? And the challenge in terms of a timeline, is that, you know, we can develop the plan in a pretty short order, right? But getting all of these things up and running, getting the new enrollment structure established and then cycling, that's going to take a while. So, you know, you're not going to really see the real first results of anything for a little while. And so in the meantime, you need to pull out all the stops to recruit as many students as you know that you can honestly recruit, right? Kind of while you're establishing a more structured approach, you've got some good guesses as to who you should be recruiting and things like that. And so then it becomes, you know, in the meantime, go get those students. You know, turning the enrollment ship is really hard. It just is. You know, nobody outside the university understands that, right? Nobody understands that we right now should be, anyway, I hope we are, about a month at least into recruiting the fall of 22, right? And nobody understands that, right? People, you know, people don't, the lead time for this stuff is really long. So if we take a year to develop a strategic enrollment management plan, deploy it next spring, really the first results that we're going to see from it won't be until the fall of 24. And the first full results probably not until the fall of 25. And so you need enrollment, and I told this to Maria once, enrollment is this frustration pressure cooker where you need to be simultaneously patient, but with a sense of urgency. It's really hard. And then to try to articulate that to stakeholders without seeming defensive. Right? You know, without seeming that you're just offering tons of excuses for why enrollment hasn't bounced back yet. But that's what a good plan is for, right? So you can show them the plan and say, here's where we're going. And I'm not making stuff up here. Got a plan. Help me work the plan, you know.
Good. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a question come through in the chat. Will the university require students to receive a COVID-19 vaccine to help ensure we can continue operating in person in the fall?
At this point, right now, the answer is no. You know, there is perhaps, you know, something that would change, but it's not looking like it. I think the political landscape is such that it's not going to allow for that.
I had another question come through the chat. It's kind of COVID related also. What's the plans for mask in the fall as of right now, which we know it could change. Well, that's one thing we've learned with COVID.
Yeah, stay tuned. You know, I don't know that we have a plan quite yet. And, you know, I think this question came up in the context of the COVID team or whatever too. And we all kind of looked at each other, and I think it might have been Perry Scanlon who said, this was just too much time between now and then. You know, if things are better, and you know, then we might be able to go maskless, but you know, if they're not, then you know, we'll all be in person together, able to have classes and normal events, but still wearing masks, you know. So at this point, I guess my official answer is I'm not sure.
Okay, I've had two more questions come in, and then I see that Provost Cronley has her hand raised. Provost Cronley, do you want to go ahead and ask?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I was just going to add a little color to what President Licari just said. In fact, this morning, the COVID command team was working on what if we are able to move to a different risk level soon what that might look like. And I know they're putting the final touches on a draft that will go to the president and to the senior leadership team, maybe even this week. So if not this week, next week. So stay tuned. As he said, we're not quite sure where we are yet, but the drafts of that are being looked at and talked about. So I just wanted to add that.
Yep.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, another question. Does the fall enrollment indicate that the university is bouncing back?
You know, at this point, it probably not, if only because, you know, so that's the other challenge about enrollment is it takes a little while to flush out a few years of declines through the system, right? So, you know, when we had this past fall, 20 and 19 were both down years, right, for the freshman class. So those smaller classes are going to work their way through the system. So even if we do bounce back in terms of the size of the freshman class, which is still questionable, you know, we'd have to replace those lost students over the last 2 years and then gain more than that. So you'd have to come back with an enormous freshman class in order to replace those lost students over the last 2 years before you get into any net gains. So that takes a long time. And so, you know, my near-term kind of state of contentment would be to simply even things out, right? Just to flatten things so that we can plan, get some space to develop and deploy our plans, and then move forward.
Thank you. And I had one more question come in for now. From 10,000 feet, what does an academic master plan look like?
I'm going to throw that one over to Maria. You know, I don't want to step on the provost's toes. I was a provost for almost 8 years, I guess. And so I told her very, very clearly, I don't want to do your job. There's nothing worse than a president who's also trying to be the provost. So Maria, go ahead.
Thank you, President Licari. And that's a really good question. And we, just as the president indicated, we're really at the beginning of a process that can't happen overnight. And so we're going to start having some of those conversations, but certainly an academic master plan, one of the pieces of that will certainly be, as the president talked about, the strategic enrollment plan, right? So how do we want to attract, matriculate, retain, and help launch successfully into great workplace outcomes our students? And who should those students be? And how do we find and attract and retain and graduate them? And so a big part of an academic master plan is that is one of the pillars likely. And then other pieces that I think bear consideration as we think about the president will start thinking about his overall university strategic plan. But again, from the academic side of the institution, what is our mission, vision, and purpose? And how does that support the university's mission, vision, and purpose? And so what from the academic perspective is that is also needs to be sort of that overarching idea. Other pieces of that will certainly be then, who do we want to be in terms of curricular progress, right? So what kinds of programs do we want to offer now and going into the future? Also then, what kinds of research do we want to do now going into the future? And so those are, and this is me just thinking off the top of my head, but those are probably big pieces or big pillars that have to be part of that academic master plan. We also want to think about what kind of faculty we want to be in terms of diversity of degrees, diversity of perspectives, and other areas. So diversity, inclusion, and equity also would be part of that academic master plan. I'm sure there are other large pieces of that I'm not thinking about, because we also have to think about then what are the kinds of infrastructure we need academically to support all those other pieces. So that would all go into it. But then, frankly, that academic master plan then has to serve the university strategic plan, be one of the pillars of that larger strategic university plan, and help inform it, so that as a university, we're all rowing in the same direction. So hopefully the president liked that answer. And he may have other thoughts, but we're really at the beginning of those conversations too. So just as we're at the beginning of a fairly long road, probably the next 12 to 14 months on a university plan, we'll in parallel be working on that academic master plan. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Crosby, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. I'll take advantage of asking a question of the president. You mentioned the strategic plan and an overall timeline. And for example, one of the first items that you said or tasks was working with PR to gather some perceptions, external perceptions of Austin Peay. Can you talk a little bit more about other major steps that you see in a strategic planning process from at Austin Peay and who might be involved?
Sure. So, the plan development, I think, is going to need to. We'll have a senior leadership team retreat and talk about maybe sort of some 90,000-foot strategic priorities, and I need to talk to the board of trustees about those kind of overarching strategic priorities. And by that, I mean, these are really, such high level that they become almost bland, but at least gives us some buckets of things, academics, diversity, student success, serving the community. Those would be like 4 I could envision, or something like that, right? So from that, then becomes essentially years worth of campus work, campus conversations, lots of faculty, staff, and student teams, working to identify goal statements and priorities, what the work might look like, what we want to measure in terms of what it looks like to be successful in, let's say, student outcomes, or something like that, or diversity, or whatever. So there does need to be sort of this, what are our strategic priorities set first, but then the rest is just really bottom up kind of work. Because if the campus isn't engaged throughout all of this over the next year, then it's not going to work, right? It's going to be a plan that isn't anybody's plan. It's not going to be a plan that anybody cares about, feels invested in, or agrees with. And so then it'll just sit on a shelf and be totally worthless, because it will not have been developed by campus. So that's basically the philosophical approach that I've got. And that's why we can lay some of the foundation works over the summer, but the real heavy lifting has got to wait until everybody's back in the fall. One thing I do like to say, and I keep looking for it. I want to say I coined it. I love because I use it all the time, but I don't know, so I'm always a little cautious about claiming credit for this. But the right thing done in the wrong way is the wrong thing, and so you can get to the correct result, but if you got there in the wrong way, it's going to blow up in your face, even if it's technically the correct thing. So. We need the process of developing a plan, and I've been engaged in a lot of strategic plan development. The process of developing a strategic plan matters almost as much as what's in the plan itself.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Well, we are coming up on the last few minutes. We have some very important people here, and I know their schedules are packed. So if we have any last minute questions that anyone would like to ask of Dr. Licari. We've had some great questions coming in today.
Yeah, it was good. I was a little worried there. It was kind of silent there for a while. I'm like, oh no, come on.
We had to get warmed up a little bit.
So good. No, these were awesome questions. These really, really were. So, and if you, if we close out the Zoom meeting, you're like, I should have asked him this. Just shoot me an email or whatever you want to do, and I will gladly respond. And if I don't know the answer, I'll ask somebody who does. I get to play the new guy card for a little while here, but generally speaking, if you've got some questions about how I like to approach things or what my thoughts are about how to develop plans or whatever it is, just shoot me an email and we can either chat or I can respond online. It's fine either way.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, President Licari.
No, thank you so much, because these are great. I love these, and it's good, good questions, and I really appreciated the chance to speak to the group. So thank you.
Great. And thank you so much to everyone for attending and for everyone that's attended our AP Academy sessions throughout the academic year. Just a reminder, those are all posted on our website. We actually have a YouTube channel and you can watch the playlist of all of these that we've had over the last academic year, and we'll kick off again in the fall with a new series. So thank you all so much. Have a great last week and a half, I guess. We're almost to the finish line before the last day of classes. And I hope everyone stays safe, and please let us know how we can help you moving forward.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Licari.
Thank you.